Hello guys. Welcome and Friend Multiverse Shinobi 2.0 back to other Naruto fanfiction. Today we begin a brand new journey, a story of betrayal, determination, and destiny. This is What If Naruto Was Abandoned and Became the Shadow King? Now, let's begin. What if Naruto was abandoned and became the Shadow King? Part 1. The boy everyone forgot. Quote, the Hidden Leaf village was peaceful. Children laughed in the streets, merchants welcomed customers with bright smiles, and Shinobi walked proudly through the village that had become a symbol of peace after the Nine Tails attack. But not everyone shared that peace. On the edge of the village, standing alone beneath a large oak tree, was a 7-year-old boy with bright blonde hair and ocean blue eyes. Naruto Uzumaki. To the villagers, he was nothing more than an unwanted child. To the shinobi, he was a burden. To himself, he was simply a lonely boy searching for someone who truly cared. Every morning Naruto watched parents walk their children to the academy. Every afternoon he watched families laugh together while eating dinner. Every night he returned to an empty apartment. No one waited for him. No one asked if he had eaten. No one wished him good night. Still, Naruto smiled. Because he believed one day everything would change. He believed that if he worked hard enough, someone would finally acknowledge him. Little did he know, fate had already chosen a completely different path. Inside the Hokage Tower, Hiruzen Sarutobi stood beside the large window overlooking the village. His old eyes rested on Naruto walking alone through the streets. The third Hokage sighed heavily. So much hatred. Directed toward a child. An Anbu operative suddenly appeared beside him. My lord, the patrol has reported another incident. Hiruzen closed his eyes. They attacked him again. The masked shinobi nodded. Yes. Quote. And Naruto. He escaped before serious injuries could be inflicted. Silence filled the office. Hiruzen clenched his pipe tightly. No child should live like this. Meanwhile, Naruto entered training ground 3 carrying nothing but a wooden practice sword. He had no teacher, no teammates, no instructor. Everything he knew had been learned through observation. He copied the movements of shinobi whenever he could. Every punch, every kick, every stance. He practiced them repeatedly until sunset. Again. His palms bled. His legs trembled. His breathing became uneven. Yet he refused to stop. If nobody will make me stronger, I'll do it myself. Quote. Those words became his new reason to live. Hours later, the forest had become completely silent. Only the sound of Naruto's wooden sword striking a tree echoed through the darkness. Bang, bang, bang. Each strike carried more power than the last. Sweat covered his face. Blood dripped from his hands. Still, he continued. Suddenly, crack. The training sword shattered into dozens of pieces. Naruto stared silently at the broken weapon. Then, he smiled. I guess I'll need a real sword someday. Unknown to him, someone had been watching the entire time. High above the trees stood a masked Anbu captain. His code name, Panther. The veteran shinobi watched Naruto with narrowed eyes. Interesting. No academy student trains like this. He fights as though he has already experienced war. Without making a sound, Panther disappeared into the shadows. Later that evening, Naruto slowly walked back toward his apartment. His stomach growled loudly. I guess. Instant ramen again. As he turned into a narrow alley, several drunken villagers blocked his path. Look who's here. The demon brat. Naruto immediately stepped backward. I don't want any trouble. One man laughed. Too late. Another grabbed Naruto's shirt. A punch landed across his face. Then another. And another. Naruto fell onto the cold ground. The villagers surrounded him. You deserve this. You destroyed our lives. You monster. Naruto didn't fight back. Not because he couldn't. But because he had promised himself. He would never become the monster they believed him to be. Just as another kick was about to land. Enough. A calm yet terrifying voice echoed through the alley. Everyone froze. Standing behind them was a masked Anbu captain wearing a Black Panther mask. His killing intent alone forced several villagers to collapse onto their knees. You have violated the Hokage's law. Quote. Leave. Nobody argued. Within seconds, the alley became completely empty. Panther looked down at Naruto. You should have fought back. Naruto slowly stood up. If I did, they would only hate me more. Quote. For the first time in many years, the emotionless Anbu captain felt something unusual. Respect. You have a strong heart. Naruto smiled weakly. I don't know if that's a good thing anymore. Without another word, Panther disappeared. But before leaving, he made a silent decision. This boy, I'll keep my eye on him. That night, Naruto lay on his bed staring at the ceiling. His body hurt. His heart hurt even more. He whispered quietly into the darkness. I wonder, will someone ever choose me? Suddenly, a deep voice echoed inside his mind. They never will. Naruto's eyes snapped open. Who's there? The room disappeared. Darkness surrounded him. Massive iron gates appeared before him. Behind those gates, two enormous crimson eyes slowly opened. A terrifying growl shook the entire space. So, the time has finally come. Naruto stood frozen before the giant cage. The creature inside smiled. What if Naruto was abandoned and became the Shadow King? The fox's offer. The world around Naruto vanished. Cold darkness stretched endlessly in every direction. The damp air carried the sound of dripping water, and the ground beneath his feet was covered by a thin layer of water that reflected the crimson glow ahead. Naruto slowly raised his head. Before him stood a gigantic iron gate covered with powerful sealing tags. Behind it, two enormous scarlet eyes stared directly into his soul. A deep growl echoed through the chamber. So, you're finally here. Naruto swallowed nervously, but instead of running away, he took another step forward. You were the one talking to me. The massive fox smiled, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. I am. My name is Kurama, the nine-tailed fox. Naruto remained silent for a moment. So, you're the monster everyone hates. Kurama's expression darkened. Monster. I protected nature long before your villages existed. Quote. It was humans who turned me into a weapon. Naruto looked into the fox's eyes. For some reason, he didn't see hatred. He saw loneliness. Quote. Then we're both the same. Kurama blinked. What? Quote. Naruto gave a sad smile. Everyone hates me without knowing who I really am. They call me a monster too. Silence filled the enormous chamber. For hundreds of years, no human had ever looked at Kurama without fear or hatred. Yet this small boy looked at him with understanding. Kurama let out a quiet laugh. You truly are different. Naruto sat down on the wet floor. So, why did you bring me here? The fox's eyes narrowed. Because your heart is changing. Pain is replacing kindness. Loneliness is replacing hope. And soon, you'll have to choose the kind of person you wish to become. Naruto lowered his head. I don't want revenge. I just don't want to be alone anymore. Kurama stared silently. Then he spoke again. I can make you stronger. Strong enough that nobody will ever hurt you again. Naruto looked up. What do you want in return? Kurama smiled. Nothing. Naruto frowned. Nobody gives something for nothing. Kurama laughed loudly. You learn quickly. My freedom. That is what I eventually desire. Quote. Naruto shook his head. I can't promise that. I don't even know if I can trust you. For the first time in centuries. Kurama smiled honestly. Good. If you had trusted me immediately, you would have been a fool. Naruto slowly stood. Then what happens now? Kurama lifted one enormous claw. I'll teach you. But you will earn every bit of power. No shortcuts. No gifts. Only training. Naruto's blue eyes filled with determination. I accept. The seal glowed softly. A tiny stream of crimson chakra flowed through the bars before disappearing into Naruto's body. Instantly. Warmth spread through every muscle. The bruises covering his arms slowly faded. The cuts on his hands began healing. Naruto stared in amazement. Incredible. Kurama smirked. That is merely the beginning. Quote. But remember one thing. Power without discipline creates monsters. I refuse to create another one. Before Naruto could respond, everything faded. His eyes suddenly opened inside his apartment. Morning sunlight entered through the window. Quote. It wasn't a dream. He could still feel the warmth inside his body. A knock sounded at the door. Naruto carefully opened it. Standing outside was Hiruzen Sarutobi. The old Hokage smiled warmly. Good morning, Naruto. I thought we could train together today. Naruto smiled for the first time in days. I'd like that, Grandpa. A few hours later, Training Ground 7 echoed with the sounds of wooden weapons clashing. Hiruzen watched carefully as Naruto repeated every movement perfectly. Again. Finally, the old Hokage lowered his staff. You're improving far faster than I expected. Naruto scratched the back of his head. I've been practicing every day. Hiruzen nodded proudly. Talent is important, but determination is far more valuable. Unknown to Naruto, someone else was watching from the trees. Panther. The mysterious Anbu captain observed every movement. He adapts after seeing a technique only once. What frightening potential. For nearly an hour, Panther watched silently before disappearing without leaving a trace. That evening, inside the Hokage's office, Panther appeared before Hiruzen. My lord. Hiruzen looked up. What is it? I've made my decision. What decision? I've found the apprentice I want. Quote. Hiruzen sighed. I had a feeling I knew who you were going to choose. Panther nodded once. I want Naruto Uzumaki. Silence filled the room. Hiruzen slowly smiled. So, destiny has finally begun to move. Quote. Far away, Naruto stood alone beneath the night sky. He gripped his wooden practice sword tightly. I'll become strong. So strong that nobody will ever decide my future again. Hidden deep within the seal. Kurama smiled. Good. Walk your own path, Naruto. Become someone even fate cannot control. What if Naruto was abandoned and became the Shadow King? The Shadow's apprentice. The next morning, the Hidden Leaf village awoke as it always did. Merchants opened their shops. Academy students hurried toward their classes. Shinobi reported for missions. Everything looked peaceful. But for Naruto Uzumaki, life had begun to change. Before sunrise, Naruto was already standing in Training Ground 3 with a wooden sword resting on his shoulder. The cool morning breeze brushed against his face as he closed his eyes. Inside his mind, Kurama's deep voice echoed. Again. Naruto nodded and repeated the sword forms. 100 swings. Then another 100. His arms trembled, but he refused to stop. Good, Kurama said. Strength is built through discipline, not talent. Naruto smiled. I'll keep going. Hours later, Hiruzen arrived. He watched quietly from a distance, impressed by Naruto's determination. Training before sunrise again, he muttered. When Naruto finally noticed him, he bowed respectfully. Good morning, Grandpa. Quote. Hiruzen smiled. I have something new to teach you today. Naruto's eyes sparkled with excitement. What is it? The body flicker technique. Naruto gasped. A real D-rank movement technique. Hiruzen chuckled. Exactly. For the next several hours, Naruto practiced without complaint. Again. By sunset, he finally succeeded. Whoosh. Naruto vanished and appeared several meters away. I did it. Hiruzen laughed proudly. Excellent, Naruto. Unknown to both of them, a masked figure observed everything from the trees. Panther. Dash dash dash. That evening, inside the Hokage's office. Panther stood before Hiruzen. My lord. Hiruzen looked up from his paperwork. So, have you made your decision? I have. And, I want Naruto Uzumaki as my apprentice. The room fell silent. Hiruzen slowly placed his brush down. I expected that answer. Panther crossed his arms. The boy has extraordinary potential. He learns after seeing something only once. He possesses discipline far beyond his age. And most importantly, he has not allowed hatred to consume him. Hiruzen nodded. Very well. You have my permission. But remember, he is still a child. Panther's voice remained calm. I'll make him strong, not heartless. For the first time in years. Hiruzen smiled with relief. Dash dash dash. The following morning, Naruto was surprised when Panther appeared before him. The masked Anbu captain looked down at the young boy. Naruto Uzumaki. Yes. From today onward, I will train you. Naruto froze. Really? Panther nodded. If you survive. Naruto blinked. Survive. Without warning. Whoosh. Panther disappeared. A second later. Thud. Naruto found himself lying flat on his back. What happened? Panther stood several meters away. You were defeated before realizing I moved. Naruto slowly stood and wiped the dirt from his clothes. Instead of crying, he smiled. Can we do it again? Panther tilted his head slightly. Interesting. Dash dash dash. Training became brutal. Every morning before dawn, Panther attacked without warning. Sometimes from behind. Sometimes from above. Sometimes while Naruto was eating breakfast. Every mistake earned another defeat. Every defeat became another lesson. Within weeks, Naruto's reflexes improved dramatically. He learned to stay calm. To observe. To predict movement. Inside his mind, Kurama watched proudly. Your body is becoming stronger. But your greatest weapon will be your mind. Naruto nodded. I understand. Dash dash dash. One evening, after another exhausting day of training, Panther handed Naruto a plain black cloak. Naruto looked confused. What's this? A gift. Naruto carefully unfolded it. The cloak was simple, lightweight, easy to move in. No bright colors, Panther explained. A shinobi who cannot be seen survives longer. Naruto smiled warmly. Thank you. Panther looked away. Don't thank me. Earn it. Naruto laughed. I will. Dash dash dash. Late that night, Naruto stood alone on top of the Hokage monument. The wind gently moved his new black cloak. He looked over the peaceful village below. One day, he would become strong enough to protect it. Not because the village deserved him, but because innocent people still lived there. Inside the seal, Kurama smiled. Your heart remains kind. Never lose that. Naruto closed his eyes. I won't. Far below, hidden among the shadows, several masked figures silently watched the young blonde boy standing beneath the moonlight. One of them whispered, he's changing. Another answered, no, he's evolving. High above them all, Panther folded his arms. A faint smile appeared beneath his mask. The world has no idea what kind of shinobi is about to be born. What if Naruto was abandoned and became the Shadow King? The birth of the shadow. The months passed quietly. While most children spent their days playing with friends or attending the academy without a care in the world, Naruto Uzumaki lived a completely different life. Every sunrise began with intense physical training. Every afternoon was devoted to chakra control and combat drills. Every evening ended with meditation and strategy lessons. Panther had one rule. A true shinobi wins before the battle even begins. Naruto never questioned him. He simply trained. Dash dash dash. One rainy morning, Panther led Naruto deep into the forest of death. The trees were massive, blocking almost all sunlight. Dangerous beasts roamed freely through the forest. Naruto looked around carefully. So, what are we doing here? Panther stopped walking. Today's lesson isn't about fighting. It's about surviving. Before Naruto could ask another question. Whoosh! Panther disappeared. Naruto's eyes widened. Wait. Silence. The forest became unnaturally quiet. Only the sound of insects and distant growls remained. Naruto took a deep breath. Think. What would Grandpa do? Quote. What would Panther expect? What would Kurama say? Inside his mind, Kurama spoke calmly. Stay alive. Naruto nodded. Instead of searching blindly, he climbed the tallest tree nearby. From the top, he studied the entire area. Fresh footprints, broken branches, animal nests, escape routes. For the first time, he wasn't acting like a frightened child. He was thinking like a shinobi. Hours later, a giant wolf suddenly leapt toward him. Naruto instantly jumped backward. Instead of attacking, he disappeared into the shadows between the trees. The beast searched everywhere. It growled. It sniffed the air. But Naruto had already moved far away. Watching from the distance, Panther smiled beneath his mask. He finally understands. As evening approached, Naruto built a small shelter from fallen branches. He collected clean rainwater, started a small fire, then quietly cooked the fish he had caught from a nearby stream. When Panther finally appeared again, Naruto didn't panic. He simply looked up. You were watching the whole time. Quote. Panther nodded. Correct. Did I pass? The Anbu captain looked around. You survived. You weren't injured. You wasted no chakra. You left no obvious trail. After a brief pause, Panther gave a single nod. You passed. Naruto smiled proudly. Back inside Konoha, Hiruzen continued watching Naruto through his crystal ball. The old Hokage couldn't hide his smile. He has grown so much. An Anbu operative appeared beside him. My lord. The academy instructors have submitted their reports. Hiruzen accepted the papers. His smile quickly disappeared. Every report contained the same sentence. Naruto Uzumaki possesses outstanding combat instincts far beyond his classmates. Hiruzen sighed. He has become strong. But he lost part of his childhood to become this way. That night, Naruto returned home exhausted. As he entered his apartment, he noticed a small package sitting on the table. Confused, he slowly opened it. Inside was a simple black tanto. A short sword. Its blade reflected the moonlight beautifully. There was also a small note. A warrior earns his first blade through effort, not luck. Continue walking your path. Panther. Naruto carefully held the weapon. His hands trembled slightly. This is my first real sword. He smiled. Not the fake smile he used to wear, but a genuine one. Inside the seal, Kurama watched quietly. You've changed. Naruto looked toward the giant fox. I know. You don't cry as often anymore. Naruto lowered his head. I still miss having a family. Quote. Kurama remained silent for several seconds. Then he finally spoke. Family isn't always connected by blood. Sometimes, the people who choose to stay beside you become your true family. Naruto smiled softly. I think Grandpa and Panther already feel like that. Kurama chuckled. Then protect them. The following morning, Panther stood on the Hokage monument waiting for Naruto. As soon as the young blonde arrived. The Anbu captain tossed him another black cloak. This one was different. It had a silver emblem stitched onto the back. A crescent moon surrounded by dark flames. Naruto looked confused. What does this symbol mean? Quote. Panther answered calmly. It represents those who walk through darkness. To protect the light. Naruto slowly placed the cloak over his shoulders. The wind blew across the monument. For a brief moment. The cheerful orphan disappeared. Standing there now was a calm, determined young shinobi whose eyes carried a quiet resolve. Far below, several Anbu silently observed him. One whispered, "He's only 7. Another replied, "But he already carries himself like a veteran." Panther looked toward the rising sun. The world will remember many heroes. But legends are born in silence. Quote, Naruto tightened his grip on his new sword. "I won't let anyone decide my future again. And one day, I'll become the strongest shinobi the world has ever seen." The morning sun rose above Konoha. And with it, a new legend quietly began. What if Naruto was abandoned and became the Shadow King? A new beginning. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. The cheerful little boy who once searched for love had disappeared. In his place stood a calm, disciplined, and powerful young shinobi. At the age of 10, Naruto Uzumaki had become one of the most talented young ninja in the Hidden Leaf. Every morning he trained with Panther. Every evening he learned strategy and leadership from Hiruzen. And every night, Kurama taught him how to master his emotions. Naruto had learned one important lesson. True strength is not measured by power, but by self-control. One afternoon, Naruto stood alone on top of the Hokage monument. The wind gently moved his black cloak. His blue eyes overlooked the village below. It was the same village that once hated him. The same village that ignored him. Yet, he no longer hated it. Hiruzen walked beside him and smiled. "You've grown, Naruto." Naruto nodded. "I've stopped waiting for people to accept me. I'll simply become someone they cannot ignore." Quote. Hiruzen laughed. "That sounds exactly like your father." Naruto smiled softly. "I hope, one day, I'll become someone even greater." Meanwhile, far outside the land of fire, 2 familiar figures walked toward Konoha. Kushina Uzumaki and Mito. After years of training, they had finally returned. Kushina smiled happily. "I can't wait to see Naruto. I wonder how much he's grown." Mito laughed. "He'll probably run over and hug you." Quote. Neither of them realized everything had changed. Back inside the village, Naruto continued his training. Panther suddenly appeared. "They're coming." Naruto slowly opened his eyes. "I know." Quote. "My sensory abilities detected them hours ago." Panther looked impressed. "You've become stronger than I expected." Naruto calmly picked up his sword. "I'm not the same child they left behind." That evening, the gates of Konoha opened. Kushina looked around excitedly. "It's good to be home." Villagers greeted her warmly. "Welcome back, Lady Kushina. Congratulations on your successful mission." Quote. Everyone celebrated her return. Everyone. Except one person. Far above the village, Naruto silently watched from the rooftop. There was no anger. No tears. No hatred. Only silence. Kurama spoke quietly. "Will you meet her?" Naruto closed his eyes. Quote. Not yet. She left a little boy behind. That little boy no longer exists. Kurama smiled. "You've finally accepted the past." Later that night. Hiruzen invited Kushina to the Hokage office. She entered with a bright smile. "So, old man, where's Naruto? I've brought him gifts from every nation." Hiruzen remained silent. His expression grew serious. "Kushina, before you meet Naruto, there are things you need to know." Her smile slowly disappeared. "What do you mean?" Hiruzen walked toward the window. "You've been gone for 3 years. Quote. A lot has happened. He isn't the child you remember." Kushina frowned. "What happened?" Hiruzen looked directly into her eyes. "You'll have to discover that yourself." Outside the Hokage tower. Naruto slowly walked away beneath the moonlight. His black cloak fluttered in the cold wind. Panther appeared beside him. Are you ready? Naruto nodded. Yes. For what? Panther smiled beneath his mask. For the next chapter of your life. Naruto looked toward the stars. My journey has only just begun. Far inside his seal, Kurama opened one crimson eye. The world still believes. Naruto Uzumaki